So yeah, it's going to cover some, scam and phishing type stuff that I've seen. I know the biggest one is where the gift card scam that we've seen, our agents getting targeted quite a bit. But over the years, ran across some that were actually pretty convincing. So this first one I've got, and let me. Um, so this is actually an email that got sent to me for some reason. um, but it looks like a real email from escrow. All the names, the phone numbers, addresses, all of this is correct. It was Rainier Title in Everett. The only sign really that something funny is going on is if you look at the actual email address, you can see it's in the UK, not in the US in Everett. Um, but all the wording sounds like someone who knows real estate. There's no typos or anything. But when you open this attachment that you're supposed to be verifying, it'll redirect you to a login for Google Docs, except it's not a real one. It's a fake login page, and they're going to steal your Google login, which that's your Gmail, your Google Docs, YouTube if you have a YouTube channel, everything for Google. So, this is a good example of, always be cautious, even if it looks really legitimate, keep your eye out. And especially if you get something you're not expecting, you know, call and verify, yes, they really sent this. Um, and I've seen similar stuff too, where, they could actually infect your computer with a virus using the attachment that looks completely legitimate. Um, and then another one, unfortunately, I couldn't find an example because I deleted them all. But another thing I've seen both with emails, and I do have an example of a text one of our brokers just got, um, where you'll get a message saying someone saw your listing, they want to go look at it. In the past, a lot of times I was seeing it where they'd say, I saw your listing on Facebook. I'd like to go see it this weekend. And then they'll have a link, which you would think would be going to the listing, but it's going to a fake login page where they're trying to get your information. Um, so, sometimes they'll actually put a URL and just throw in like the word Facebook somewhere, or whatever site they're trying to impersonate. But other times you'll just get text and you don't actually see the address. But if you hover over that text in any of the browsers, down in the bottom left, it will show you part of the address. Then if you wait a second, it'll show you the full address of where it's going to. So this first part, before the single slash, is what you really care about. So whatever.com. If it's not .com, then you should be really suspicious most of the time, to see what website it's going to. Because I have seen stuff like it might say Google dot blah blah blah.com. That's not Google. If you own blah blah blah.com, you can put anything you want in front of it as what's called a subdomain. So there's one trick to kind of prevent yourself from clicking on something that could potentially be malicious. Fortunately, most of the time, they're not trying to infect your computer. They're just trying to get your login information. But they do still, some places do still try sometimes. So here's an example I made of one of the main ones our brokers have been getting, where someone will be impersonating Larry or Brenda or Pat, sometimes just a random agent in the company, where they'll initially just send a message saying, "Hi, this is Larry. Do you have time, or do you have a minute, or can you do me a favor?" Something along that line. And then once you respond, they'll end up saying, "Hey," something to the effect of, "I need a gift card for a client, or for the staff. Can you buy me one and I'll pay you back later?" And where the scam part comes in is once you buy one, if you fall for that, then they'll ask for you to give them the number on the card, which then lets them go to whatever website and use the gift card right away. So, um, and they usually are asking for fairly large amounts from like 500 to $1,000. I think I even saw one they wanted $2,000. um, and unfortunately, once you buy a gift card, you can't return it. You can't get a refund. It's gone. And normally they'll use the card right away, so you can't even like try to use it for yourself and get your money back. It's already been redeemed. Um, so this is probably the biggest one to watch out for. We'll never ask you to buy a gift card or anything, other than like notices for meetings. We don't, usually send out texts, and then like birthday text messages and stuff. Um, but normally, if we needed something from you, we'll call you or email you. We're not going to send the text message. And if you want, a good way to avoid these is if you add, Pat, Larry, and the staff number, our office numbers into your phone. That'll help you avoid it a lot because, whatever number they're texting from, it's not going to be ours. So it would show a number rather than our name. Most of the ones I've seen, they're sending them from 360 numbers because it's pretty hard to get like a Google Voice number with 206 or even 425 nowadays. So it's usually from a different area code altogether. And then this is an example. This is one of the brokers forwarded to me. Uh, Again, where someone's saying, "I want to see your property." Usually that they do put their name on it to make it seem more official, more realistic. Um, and then usually it's going to be a long link that's hard to read. But you can see this one, it's the actual domain name is goldflightperu.com. Obviously, that's not a place any of us are advertising our listings. So a lot of times, because text messages, they can't hide the URL. It's a little more obvious. But always take the time to read that before you click on it. Because again, even with cell phones, they are a little bit harder to get a virus on. But if you get a virus, it's a lot harder to know you have a virus. So, hackers do target cell phones with viruses. And you've probably at some point gotten a spam message where at the bottom it says sent from my iPhone. That's someone's iPhone that got hacked. But most of the time, this is the same thing where they're trying to get your login information. And then they can use it to scam other people. We actually had one where, and I've heard of this happening to other people, where if you have an ad account for doing marketing like on Facebook, they'll use your account and your bank account or credit card to run a massive amount of ads, like thousands, tens of thousands of dollars worth of ads. advertising something that's a scam. Like the one I saw, they they tried to run $20,000 worth of ads for a pickup truck they were supposedly selling for $5,000. Um, which you would think Facebook would just automatically flag that as being suspicious, but luckily we got an email right away and canceled it and didn't cost us anything.
Mm.
That's an example of how bad it can get just by clicking a link and typing in your login information, without paying too close of attention. Um, so I already, kind of touched on a few of these things for ways to prevent this. The biggest thing is just paying attention, double checking any links that are, in the email or a text message. Um, you know, check that if you're not sure on something or think it's a little fishy. If you have already clicked on the link, check the address bar at the top of your browser and make sure that it is the website you think it is. A big clue, most of you on, especially if you're on your own computer, you're already logged into your Gmail, you're already logged into your Facebook, and they pretty much don't disconnect log you out unless you manually do it. So anytime you click a link on an email and then it pops up saying log into Gmail, right away you should be suspicious because you should already be logged in. It shouldn't be asking you for that. The only time they would ever do that is if you're, trying to access your account information. You have to log in again to verify that it's still you sitting at the computer. And then another great way to avoid phishing, if you save your passwords in Google Chrome or Edge, Firefox, whichever browser you use, it's going to fill in those boxes for you automatically. And that is if it doesn't do that, then that's a quick sign that something's wrong. Because if you get a Facebook login and it didn't fill it in for you, you know right away, hey, this should have been filled in. You can check the address bar and see if it's a different website, which it probably is. And then you can also there's password managers like LastPass, one of the big ones. Those can be useful if you're switching computers a lot. You can actually save them on a USB drive and you don't have to log into an account to use them on every different computer. But for your own computer at home, just using what's in the browser, built into the browser, is perfectly fine and secure enough. And then on the chat, we mentioned too on Craigslist. Yeah, with Craigslist, it's always going to have a randomly generated email address if it's really from Craigslist. So their system hides your actual email address and the other person's email address, and all goes through Craigslist. Unfortunately, for when we're giving out leads from the office, it makes things a little difficult. But as far as security goes, it's a good system. And then also, speaking of Craigslist, another scam more for your let your clients be aware of, which I know, Debbie, you had one happen where they were trying to rent out your listing on Craigslist.
Mhm. Yep.
So that's something to, you can keep an eye out, and also let your sellers know if they hear anything about or have any people coming from saying they saw it on Craigslist for rent. It's a scam. Don't send them money. That one, they usually want like $500 to, reserve it for them to, rent the house. And then they just, basically like a holding fee, and then the scammer just takes off with the money and it's gone. It's over in Nigeria or Russia or something. So, okay. So did anyone have any other questions or comments or experiences they've had?
Thing is like when you have one of those emails from Larry, when you block the phone, you may get a second one. There were so many numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, actually there's one thing, let me look up what the number was again. Yeah, usually they're switching numbers all the time because they're just using like free Google Voice numbers.
Mhm.
There's lots of other services like that. So they are using real numbers because they need you to be able to reply.
Yep.
But they do change all the time. Now,
Just
one
one-
other
just one
thing,
thing- Just one thing that I'll kind of add, for like, if you're doing advertising on Craigslist or other publicly accessible sites, if you get a contact, this is as a listing agent, if you get a contact, from something like that, don't meet those contacts or those, prospects, at the property that you're advertising for the first time. Always pick a neutral, site that maybe is close by or something like that, just to give yourself and that property a layer of protection, because I've had at least one case where we had someone who was kind of fishing using a Craigslist ad, trying to get a little bit more of insight into the property for reasons other than actually wanting to buy the property. So it's just kind of more of a way of vetting clients than it is for actually fraud awareness, but still just need to be a little careful in Craigslist. Not everybody that's contacting you there, even if they're using legitimate emails and things like that, is really a legitimate buyer. So kind of, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I will say, I mean, like, especially like when we closed the Linwood office and we're selling lots of stuff on Craigslist. When you first post something on Craigslist, it's like the first probably 5 emails you get at least are scams, and you'll get them like right away. So
Mm.
I'm always suspicious if I post something on Craigslist and then get an email 5 minutes later. I always I'm a little more suspicious of it. Just because of how quickly they responded. But it was going to say, with a text, well, any text message, like either scams or just spam texts, if you forward it to the number spam, which is was that 7726, that's kind of a universal number to forward spam text messages to, and that will help your provider and other cell phone providers block those text messages. So it's not necessarily going to block them right away, but it does help them filter it out for everyone. But yeah, other than that, you can block if it's a legitimate advertiser, that might get rid of them for good. But scammers, like I said, are changing phone numbers all the time, so they'll probably start up again in a couple weeks. So, any other tips or questions? Okay, I guess we'll wrap this up. And then just a reminder for everyone too, all of our old or old meetings are on our YouTube channel, which if you log into nwchampions.com and then click on the case studies and training, there's a link there that goes straight to our YouTube channel. You can watch. We've got all the tech times. There's meetings that Eileen did a while back on marketing. And then I think there's a couple other, kind of random training videos we have there. So good idea to check, and you can browse through it at any time, or if you need a refresher, especially the ones dealing with paperwork and stuff. Okay,
Okay.
well, thanks for everyone showing up. It was nice
Thank
to
you,
have a
Chris.
good sized crowd.
Then see you next year.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Talk to you later.
Okay,
Bye,
bye.
guys.